My number one objective today is an ambitious one, and that is your ability to achieve strategic goals in work and life by transforming how you plan and implement projects. That's right, projects. I would presume that most of you are pretty good at project management. You can manage tasks, you can manage schedules, and so forth. So the challenge is how you connect those with strategic goals. And I worked all my life helping engineers, helping technology folks, helping people of all backgrounds to be more strategic. I've worked in about 36 countries now, and at taking complex ideas, breaking them down, and making them simple. So I'm going to give you as much as I can today and give you a chance to learn more at the end. I see we have the Bahamas, Romania chiming in. That's great. If you also want to just talk about what your technical specialty is, I presume we have a lot of IT folks, engineers, but we may have some other specialties as well. That will help me to tailor the examples. Face any of these problems in your projects or your goals. Greater deliver in a fast-moving world. Not everyone's on the same page. They have different views of the project. They have different views of the goal. There's no clear path to the solution. You have to figure it out along the way. Nasty surprises come up along the way. Lots of talk and little action. You implement the plan but still fail. You experience stress and anxiety? Well, if so, you're not alone. That's characteristic of the types of issues we face today. So I'm going to give you some very practical tips to overcome some of these difficulties. I suggest that you take notes. I'm going to give you a lot. And at the end, an opportunity to learn more. What kind of interesting specialties represented here? Thank you very much. Einstein said it best. He said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same type of thinking used when they were created. We need a new type of thinking. So where can we turn? Well, let's look at strategic planning." Some of you are yawning because strategic planning can be very boring and most plans actually sit on the top shelf. In fact, 70% of strategies fail, according to the Fortune magazine. And that's a pretty dismal statistic. Well, let's look at project management. Again, according to the Gartner Group, 70% of all those projects fail. Again, a terrible statistic. So what can we do? Out there like apple pie, cream, in and of themselves, but when you put them together, you have apple pie a la mode, and that's fabulous. New thinking will take the best of strategic planning and project management and combine them into something I call strategic project management. And strategic project management is a methodology, it's a thinking process. You may be familiar with some of the elements, but I don't think you've seen them put together in quite this way. So pay attention, you're going to get some great takeaways. Who's familiar with the logical framework approach? The logical framework approach is one I've popularized in my book, Strategic Project Management Made Simple. It's a thinking process that actually began in developing countries. The logical framework is represented as a 4x4 matrix, and embedded in there are some very powerful ideas. I'm going to walk you through the basics. Well, do you ever have any of these problems? Premature task focus. Everyone is eager to get to the tasks and the activities and roll out Microsoft projects or equivalent. Because there's comfort there. It's tangible. It's not fuzzy. How about fuzzy objectives? High-level objectives. Oh, we want to be the best in class, or we want to be a nimble organization, or we want to have a learning culture. But what do those things really mean? In cases, they're missing measures. And unless you can measure it, you can't manage it. Ineffective planning processes. Strategic planning, it begins with a SWOT analysis, or in project planning, prematurely getting to the tasks. Show you a better way. Untested assumptions. Virtually every project failure can be traced back to an implicit assumption which could have been identified and dealt with at the beginning. No common language. There is no common standard management vocabulary. And as a result, people use words like goal and purpose and outcome and intention and measures in very different ways. So I'm going to give you a way to at least address some of these problems, if not solve them completely. 3 specific takeaways for you today. First, you'll learn the power of causal logic. It's very simple and unappreciated. Second, I'm going to give you 4 critical strategic questions. I have a good idea that you're doing a great job of answering at least one of these, but maybe glossing over the other 3. And third, an introduction to the logical framework approach. To be a rocket scientist to appreciate NASA rule number 15, which says this: review of most failed projects and project problems indicates that the disasters were well planned to happen from the start. The seed laid down early. Initial planning is the most vital part of a project. Now, if you agree with that, just log and say yes. What is the logical framework approach? Well, it provides a common language, framework to think, plan, and act, step-by-step process in the form of a matrix. I'd add that it scales very well. It applies to one-person projects, to small team projects, to programs, to national projects. I had a chance a few years ago to help the research and development institutes in the 13 Caribbean nations to come together in a common strategy framework. A lot of agreements here, a lot of yeses, and even a yep. Thank you. This logical framework originates. In fact, if you've heard about it before, just let me know in the chat log. In 1980, the U.S. Congress asked USAID, that's the American Foreign Aid Program, what are the benefits of all these projects we're funding? A lot of these projects were aimed at increasing the quality of life for the rural poor, reducing poverty, helping farmers grow more, creating institutions. But interestingly, USAID could not answer the question because they didn't have the right kind of framework. They didn't design projects with evaluation in mind. So out of that came the log frame. The logical framework was developed by Leon Rosenberg at a company called PCI, Practical Concepts, in Washington, D.C. I was recruited by Leon to help teach this, and I taught it in over 20 countries, developing countries in Asia, Latin America, the Middle East, and Africa. Recognized that the problems that it helped solve were very similar to the problems faced by organizations in developing countries. The ability to, or the inability to, get everyone on the same page, to sort out complexity, to make sure that when you implement a project plan, it makes a difference, that you go beyond simply creating deliverables to creating a real impact. Mastered it, later improved it, and wrote the best-selling book, Strategic Project Management Made Simple. Structure of the log frame. Physically, it resembles a 4x4 matrix. The first column is objectives. And we're going to set up a hierarchy of objectives from the bottom to the top: inputs, outcomes, purpose, and goal. We want to be able to measure each of these objectives in advance, so success measures helps us do that. We also want to verify where we are with regard to these measures. So the next column is verification. It deals with assumptions, those external factors that we often ignore that have an impact on our success. Risk management falls into this.